Well, here it is. We're starting on Daggerfall. Got a short little intro roll here. Bethesda Softworks presents Daggerfall. I love how the D is an actual dagger. That's always been fun to me. So, this is the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. Now, I just want to get a couple things out of the way before we start. I sort of have this love-hate relationship with Daggerfall. It took a while for me to actually start enjoying Daggerfall, because at first it was very painful because, you know, I figured that since it was an old game, it was going to be harder and harder to get into, because the modern games are so streamlined nowadays. But it is a good game. I do think it's kind of good, except for the final dungeon, which, you know, I don't want to spoil it, but it's completely awful. But Daggerfall has a lot of improvements over an Arena, but it also carries over a lot of the problems I had with Arena. And, you know, Daggerfall fans in general, they tend to, in my opinion at least, they tend to overhype the game, because they'll, like, overhype a mechanic that doesn't really amount to much when you start looking at it. Like, this game has dual wielding, but when you actually dual wield in-game, it's just, oh, you can switch between two one-handed weapons whenever you want. But I'll save all of my complaining for the main LP. We start with character generation, as always, and you have to select your home province, like in Arena. You still can't be an Imperial, because they technically don't exist in the lore yet. I did a little thinking about which race I wanted to be, and I eventually settled on the Nords, who hail from Skyrim. And Daggerfall cuts down on the walls of text, but not much. I'll be a Nord. I'll be a female Nord, actually. So, yeah, I have a feeling that character generation is going to take up an entire video, because this is the first Elder Scrolls game to let you play a custom class. You can make your own class, and there's just so much you can do with this. It's highly in-depth. First of all, well, you know, the only character generation system that I can think of that has more depth than this would be Battlespire, but unfortunately Battlespire is not that good of a game. I mean, I barely even played it, but it just doesn't look fun to me. Anyhow, okay, so I went ahead and did all of the editing for the attributes and the skills, because it took a while to click through everything. You are allowed to, for your custom class, lower the attributes down to as low as 10, and redistribute those points to any other attribute up to a max of 75. So you can see personality, luck, and willpower are not that good in Daggerfall. Speed is very good. Strength and intelligence are really good. And agility and endurance, well, I just put the rest of the points there. These attributes override whatever the race you picked would have had, so the race is really only good for the extra perk that you get. For the Nords, that's cold resistance. And they also left in a debug key. Like, I'll show it off, actually. So you can see that I have to put 5 more points into something, but if I push the U key, it's down to 0. What happened? Well, it seems that they left in a debug key, and this would allow me to max everything out at 75 if I wanted to. But I'm not going to do that. That's, I don't think that was developer intended. Well, I do a lot of things that are not developer intended, but I'm not going to, like, go over the top. But they left it in the game. This is perfectly, you know, legal for speedruns or whatever. The speedrunners use it. Anyhow, skills. Skills are a new thing that they introduced to Daggerfall. Now, instead of gaining levels through experience points, they now let you select skills for your character, and the more you use those skills, the better they get, and as your skills improve, your level improves as well. It's a nice system, but it's very exploitable, and you're gonna see what I mean by that. So the different skills include weapons, like Longblade is a weapon type. Restoration, Alteration, Mysticism, Thaumaturgy, and Destruction are all schools of magic, because all the magical effects got divided up into schools of magic. And running is a skill. The higher the skill, the faster you run. Medical is how fast you heal. Took a while to heal in Arena, that's for sure. Mercantile is for bartering, and boy did they streamline bartering, I love it. Dodging is, of course, evasion. Stealth is moving without getting caught by enemies. And critical strike is your critical hit rate. Now, the thing about Daggerfall is that I'm going to show you what the other skills all are. Look at how many skills there are. There are almost 40 skills in this game. That's not the exact number, but there's quite a bit of skills in Daggerfall. And people praise Daggerfall for having lots and lots of skills, but the thing is, like, is there any real difference between each individual weapon type? You still swing it the same way. Is there, oh, Illusion's the 6th school of magic. I should probably put that somewhere. In fact, I'll do that. And the other thing is, like, running and jumping are skills, and there are also language skills, like Harpy, Impish, Orcish. None of the language skills are very useful because all they let you do, they don't let you talk to enemies. All they let you do is pacify one enemy type, and you can move past without killing it. Why would you move past an enemy without killing it? There's no reason to. Orcish, I think, would be very useful because you fight a lot of orc enemies in Daggerfall. Also, swimming is useless. Pickpocket is not that good. Lockpicking is not that good because the open spell still exists. Like, just all of these skills that are basically dice rolls, like crit strike, or language skills, which are technically also dice rolls. There's etiquette skills. How are you skilled at etiquette? That doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, I think that's one aspect of Daggerfall that is very overhyped. Anyhow, let's move on to the big game breaker of this game. You can set how many hit points you gain per level, or the maximum amount of hit points you're going to gain per level, and there are perks and there are disadvantages. Every time you take a disadvantage or lower the number of hit points per level, this little meter is going to go down. Every time you take an advantage or increase your max hit points per level, this meter is going to go up. The higher the meter is, the longer it's going to take the level up. It's a weird thing. It lets you trade advantages and disadvantages for leveling speed. Really, really weird. So we're going to go ahead and go into special disadvantages. There are a bunch of disadvantages, such as the inability to regen spell points, which was what the sorcerer class has. And there are things like weaknesses to specific enemy types or elements of magic. You can make yourself have less magic outdoors. In fact, is this the one? Lower magic ability in darkness. No, we're not going to do that. We are going to take lower magic ability in daylight because you spend 99% of Daggerfall indoors anyways. And we're going to take critical weaknesses. We're going to be critically weak to diseases, to paralysis, and to poison. Now, a trick that everyone knows with this game is that if you play a high elf, they're immune to paralysis. And you can take the critical weakness to paralysis disadvantage and trade it for something else. And, like, it doesn't matter. You're still immune to paralysis. We are also going to forbid ourselves from certain weapon materials. We are going to forbid ourselves from using Dwarven. We are going to forbid ourselves from using Steel. And we are going to forbid ourselves from using... where is it? Elven. For some reason, Elven, Steel, and Dwarven are worth far more to the game than something like Daedric or Ebony. And that's all the disadvantages we can put. So we're going to need to take several advantages to balance all this out. We are going to take immunity to non-elemental magic, so now we're immune to poison, disease, and paralysis anyways. At least I think so. We're going to take immunity to frost, not frost, we're going to take immunity to fire, we're going to take immunity to shock. Since Nords are resistant to the cold, we don't need that, but now we have lots of magical immunities. We're going to take triple our intelligence and spell points, because mages kind of need this. There is spell absorption, which the sorcerer class had. I don't take it because now spell absorption has been nerfed. If you absorb too many spell points and go over the maximum for whatever your current intelligence is, you actually take damage because of the mana burn or whatever. It's funny, isn't it? What else can we take? Athleticism makes you run faster and jump higher if you're a red guard. I don't know why any class is allowed to take it when it only works for red guards. Actually, that's a bug. So yeah. And you can also take... Oh, this is nice. You can take regenerating health while immersed in water. That that is just such an interesting perk to me. Like, it would be really interesting to play a class that regenerates health underwater. What else do I need? Do I need anything else? I could take acute hearing. We can hear sounds from further away. I could take rapid healing in darkness. That's the thing you can do. And I could take expertise in longblade. That makes you hit more often with the longblade weapon type. So yeah. And I can take the maximum amount of hit points. Oh, I'd better yeah, I better make sure that the meter is at the lowest it could possibly be, just for like reasons. Alright, I don't need those 2 perks. They're just bonuses. This is good. This is all very, very nice. We are going to name our class Broken, because that's what it is. One of the disadvantages, in fact, is taking damage in sunlight. You can be a vampire in Daggerfall, so if that is your plan, you can take the damage in sunlight disadvantage at no cost. So yeah, really broken class we're building here. And finally, we have the background questions. Daggerfall actually generates a character background for you based on your answers here. What school of magic have I been studying the longest? I'd better take illusion. What motivates you to a life of adventure? I happen to know that if you pick riches, you start the game with extra gold. So we're doing that. In between formal study, you spent your time... What do we want here? Sparring. Since childhood, you have saved a favorite book. And this is the important one. In gratitude for services rendered, the Emperor gave you an Ebony Dagger. This is an extremely important weapon. Well, if you're playing the game normally. A dagger would be a short blade, and I didn't take short blade. But let's take it anyways. It's worth a lot of money. And additional magical training in mysticism. I just pick it because as a child, your nickname was Rabbit. You are friendlier than most with the glorious dragons. I just love how it says the glorious dragons there. Yeah, there are apparently dragons in Daggerfall. I don't know how that works because they're supposed to be extinct until Elder Scrolls V. So yeah, the Daedra are in Daggerfall, however. Oh yeah, there's also a dragon language skill, so, you know, wrap your head around that one. Anybody who's played Elder Scrolls V is just going to be weirded out by that. Of all disagreeable types, you have the most personal hatred for stupid peasants. But no, diabolic wizards. You are intimate friends with a mage. What god, if any, do you worship? Okay, all of the gods in Daggerfall that they introduced in Daggerfall are named after either developers or beta testers, which is really funny. For example, Julianos, God of Logic, is named after Julian Jensen, the lead programmer guy. He did an interview on YouTube, and I will link that in the description so you can go watch it. But the only god I've ever worshipped is Akatosh, the dragon god of time, because I've actually seen him in action. You have the most trouble avoiding diseases. If you pick this and take the critical weakness to disease, the game actually has you so vulnerable to disease that it rolls over and makes you immune to it. Fun, huh? Lots and lots of bugs. Oh, and I also could have edited my reputations with the different factions, but I don't really care to do that. Name. I'm playing a female Nord, aren't I? Is my Fire Emblem fanboyism showing? There are faces you can pick, and now we have to do the whole roll for stats thing. Alright, so I just want to be able to distribute as many points myself as I possibly can. That's good. I just like the sound effect. I like doing this because of the sound effect more than anything else. Okay, let's distribute all of these. We will just put all of these stats in. And I really like this. We've got a nice 85, 85, 80, etc. Save that. Alright, enough of that. And you can distribute some extra points to your skills. What am I doing here? That'll have to do. This will do nicely, I think. And it's gonna all go into running. Because, you know, I can't stand the movement speed if you don't have high speed attribute. So we gotta make that as fast as possible. Finally, we have player reflexes. This chooses how fast the monsters are at attacking you. If you set it to very high, you'll level up a little bit faster, but the monsters will also be at their fastest. So let's do it! And that is everything. It took a long time to create that class, but it was very much worth it. If you wanted to, you could click restart and go all the way back to the beginning. The only reason you would do that is because it forgets to remove the bonus items, such as the Ebony Dagger, from your inventory when you restart. So you could answer those questions the same way again and again and again and get lots and lots of Ebony Daggers. But I'm not going to do that because I don't have the time. It is time to roll the intro!
400 years after Tiberseptimus' reign, the beginning will meet the end, and the bloody circle will close at the Empire of Tamriel. The unworthy heirs of the Septim dynasty have allowed the bonds of the Empire to weaken and crack. Uriel Septim, the Seventh, cannot repair what his ancestors ignored. The provinces fight among themselves like neglected children, drunk with rebellion. One indomitable power hides itself, but not forever.
I think I'm gonna need to subtitle that just because of the Elmer Fudd actor. The Abydia Palace, seat of Emperor Uriel Septim the Seventh, midnight.
Excuse the gloom, but none may know of this meeting.
They can't find out we filmed this in Todd Howard's basement.
The nature of my trouble is darker still. Over a year ago, King Lysandus of Daggerfall died honorably on the field of battle. He was as loyal a subject, ally, and friend as you are.
I just met you 5 minutes ago.
I did grieve for him, but his spirit does not rest. With a spectral army, he haunts his former kingdom, crying for revenge. I do not know why a good and loyal man would be so cursed.
Maybe he wants revenge.
Perhaps you can find the answer and close the marble jaws of oblivion, bringing peace to his soul.
You love that line, don't you?
I ask this as your emperor. Your friend.
Ah, don't jerk your mouth around like that.
I have one lesser request. Several years ago, I wrote a letter to the Queen of Daggerfall.
Love letter.
It never arrived.
Well, maybe she doesn't like you, dude.
The letter was of a sentimental and personal nature.
See? Love letter.
If you find and destroy that letter, I will be grateful.
Well, maybe she threw it away, dude. It's only a letter.
Now, my champion, rest well this night.
Oh, here it comes.
Tomorrow you sail for the kingdom of Daggerfall.
Roll credits. Fade to black. So they put out that big live action intro, which was admittedly very impressive. I snark over it a lot, but I've been wondering for ages who those actors are because they're really good. Do they have film roles or something? And then they put out this wall of text, which is very sad. You know, I've seen some old footage of some more live action stuff for Daggerfall, but you know, unfortunately, they cut most of it by the time the game was released. Anyhow, a storm of supernatural strength boiled over the Iliac Bay like a malefic creature. Your boat was destroyed, but you managed to swim through the churning water to a promontory rock. There you found a cave and escaped the fury of the storm. Yeah, we needed an excuse for an intro dungeon, now didn't we? We weren't locked in jail this time around, so we needed some other excuse for the intro dungeon. And there is a tutorial. It's a really awful tutorial that they have included with this game, so we're not going to go with it. Okay, first dungeon. First thing you do is save, because I do not want to have to go through that entire character creation process. What?